Thank you for listening to the Gateway to the Rockies podcast from Visit Aurora from the rafters of the Stanley Marketplace. This is the show dedicated to telling the stories of Aurora, Colorado. Hi there, I'm Dave, the Director of Marketing for Visit Aurora. From highlighting community voices to covering major events, Aurora TV plays a vital role in keeping residents and visitors informed and connected. Today, I'm thrilled to be joined by Miranda Christian, Senior Producer at Aurora TV, the city's official news and storytelling platform. Thank you for the time today, Miranda.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
Tell me about young Miranda. Tell me about the appeal, the allure of getting into television.
Oh man, I was a talker growing up. So getting into something that let me, express myself, talk, I was always into writing, doing that. I loved sports. So that was kind of where I started, and then found a niche for storytelling, and kind of the rest is history. So cliche, but that's how it is.
Do you remember a moment in your childhood where you were like, okay, I see this professionally as something that could work out for me? Or was that something that maybe happened a little bit later when you were in school?
Shockingly, it was probably in high school. I joined the school newspaper and was like, oh, okay, this kind of sounds fun. I like writing. And then I kind of learned that, the broadcast TV is an option, that you could do like sports reporting. Of course, ESPN was like the big dream, everyone reaches that. And I was like, let's try to go do that and see where that takes me. And it just, you kind of find your niche there.
What was your kind of pathway to not only to Aurora, but just kind of your career path so far?
Yeah, so career path, I played college volleyball. So that was a huge weight in that, finding a school that had both a volleyball program, but also my major, which generally was like mass comm-esque style journalism, something.
Yeah.
So I found a school that had a mass comm with sports emphasis program. So kind of went that route. They were heavy on the radio side, but I figured, yeah, that sounds great. Got the volleyball scholarship, got that, I feel like this sounds great. Get my foot in the door. And then from there, graduated and got a job at a local TV station, started there, and then just sort of worked my way. The sports world is very cutthroat. I think, it's hard. There's maybe 2 jobs in a newsroom versus maybe 20 reporters. So I think I ended up just being like, well, news is kind of fun and I'm actually kind of good at it. So let's go that way and see how that feels. And I found I just loved it and fell in love.
When you're starting out in television, I have a background in radio. I spent 20 years in it, so I know the grind of the early on. Do you recall, I imagine you were a reporter early on. Do you recall any interesting or odd stories that you were assigned to because you were the lowest on the list?
Man, I think so. I'm trying to think. So I started Sioux City, Iowa, a very small town. I actually was part-time and paid my dues that way as just this part-time editor who got lucky to film stories at the same time, paid my dues all the way there.
Yeah.
And I just remember going out to middle of nowhere, Iowa, couldn't even remember the town. And it was like a horse celebration and I'm terrified of horses.
Oh no.
So this was but I was gonna do it because it was a story that I gotta go shoot. And I just remember the whole time just pretend you're not afraid, and took the opportunity to. That was probably one of my first stories I ever got to do, but the whole time I was petrified the whole day. I had no cell service. It was around 50 horses. It was quite an ordeal.
When you're a small market talent, are you driving the van? Are you setting up your own shot? Are you making sure your audio is good? Are you doing your own writing and editing and all that?
I probably did that up until I left my last station. I did that for 12 years all by myself, the one-man band kind of style, but I loved it. You find a way to love it, and it was kind of fun just to do my own thing.
It also gives you a skill set and a perspective that makes you invaluable in your career, because all of the obstacles and all the pitfalls and all the opportunities. The ways to approach a story. Who to talk to, who not to talk to, how to get it edited. So it's a much larger workload, but I imagine it made you a much more well-rounded journalist.
Yeah, I'd like to think so. And you learn how to work very, very quickly, or you learn how to just, do something in a very different order, just a different sort of, mindset, versus when you have someone with you, you have to just flip sort of a different switch in your brain than when you're by yourself. You're very independent and have to make very quick decisions.
For those of us who only consume media, it's a polished product. We don't understand everything that goes into it. Without turning this into a TED Talk, can you kind of walk us through what is the process from story ideation to it actually being in front of eyes and ears?
Yeah, most of the time, probably 90% of the time, I would go find the story, be it through a source or maybe just like Facebook or something. Social media became an amazing tool. I'll go find the story, find the people I'm going to interview. I often call them characters because that's what people want in a story. Go interview them, get, video that will tell the story, go shoot it how I want, try to make it as pretty or compelling as possible. Then I'll go write the story, be it probably about 1:15 for broadcast standard anymore. And then you edit as quick as possible to meet probably a 4 or 5 o'clock deadline. Granted, you're starting your day about 9 a.m.
Right.
So, that's a quick turn anymore for what you're doing. And sometimes you're doing 2 stories in one day. So it's, very efficient when you come to what you're doing.
It's not for the faint of heart.
No, yeah.
Can you tell us what led you to Aurora TV?
So I'm actually from Aurora. I was born just right outside. My parents technically Centennial, but they're like the block away from Aurora Centennial. So I knew the area. And then as I was kind of looking to get back to Colorado, I was possibly looking for things outside of the news industry that weren't necessarily that daily grind. And I was going to be very picky about what I found. And this opportunity came up and I'm like, well, that looks fun and looks like something I could still do, but in a more storytelling kind of way in the community that I grew up in. And it was just like, I could not pass it up.
For those who are unaware, kind of what is the mission of Aurora TV and why does it exist? It's been around for more than 40 years. It's an important pillar of our community, but tell us a little bit about the mission and how it's different than maybe quote unquote traditional news outlets.
Yeah, to not get like too cliche, but we're all about the community and sharing stuff that maybe people don't know about. We like to tell these beautiful visual stories that, is it the new business that just opened? Is it a community event going on? That we get to tell that in this really unique way. We have our, Aurora Now show that airs every Wednesday. We have some other programming that airs on channel 8880. Our website makes us very unique in a way that we get to share everything right there. And then, we're diving into the app world, social media, all that too, meet people where they are. But, our mission is to just sort of share what's in the community and do that in a way that's entertaining and compelling, and make Aurora, this place that everyone loves and wants to be a part of.
And this is different. This isn't public access. Mm-hmm. This is, storytelling. It's also informational. How do you kind of balance those two approaches?
I think we have to find the things that people want to know about, but also we know that there are certain things we just have to share, like this is the event coming up next month, or this is stuff that you need to know as far as there's changes to this road construction project coming up. We have to get that information out there because that's how you tell people on our sort of newscast. But at the same time, we want to let people know about this amazing story that just happened, at a school or something. So it's kind of finding that balance of, we're the storytellers, but how do you do that in, an entertaining way?
Have you found a particular type of story that resonates with your audience or that you particularly love covering yourself?
I love covering the character-driven stories. If you find someone that just has that, maybe it's someone who makes you laugh, cry, it's just something really awesome about them, that people will always watch those because we love learning about others. Is it the mom and pop shop that's been there forever, this brand new unique place, or is it somewhere that's going to make me hungry? Those stories will forever be something that entertains people no matter what, is going on. But I think something that we do really good at is we make it, we shoot these beautiful stories. Everyone on the team is very good. We all film our own stories. We write them, we edit them. So we do that in a way that you're going to stop and watch a story for, 2-3 minutes, regardless the topic most of the time. And that's always that fun sort of delivery.
You don't have the setup that a major network has or the budget, but you have a dedicated team that puts out award-winning content at a very high level. Can you give us, take us backstage a little bit? What is your team like? How big is your team, and what is everybody kind of responsible for?
The first day I walked into the Aurora TV studio, I was blown away because I'm like, this is nicer than some of the stations I worked at.
Yeah.
Our studio is amazing. I love the space. We have so much flexibility in the space that it can look like a traditional newscast, but then we call it like infotainment sometimes, where you can kind of, you can have a dance group come in. We had a high school band sometimes. So there's 3 of us that anchor, and then we have our lead producer who will help kind of make sure we're all, doing everything good. But then we actually survive a lot by volunteers that help us get this done. We film, 1 day a week, our weekly show, and they come in, they run camera for us, they run teleprompter, they run our graphics behind the scenes. That our volunteers help us so much, because at the end of the day, we're a smaller team to get that done and make this beautiful award-winning content. So that's been something we're very lucky that we have people willing to come in, dedicate 2-3 hours a week to us, and help us get that product done.
And, legitimate awards. We're talking Heartland Emmys. We're talking Colorado Broadcasters Association awards. I mean, you put out incredible content that resonates with the community. You talk about volunteers. I'm guessing you're getting people from the community, but maybe students that are also aspiring to have careers in journalism. And here's a gateway to doing exactly that.
Yes, we do internships as well, which is always really fun because we get to mentor the future, broadcasters, storytellers. You think of the film industry and you think of the broadcast world, we kind of can cater to both. We'll have students come from the CCA film school as well who get to come in and get kind of a taste of both. When you get that hands-on experience, there's nothing that can compare to that. We had an intern last summer who came in from UNC, and I know the work she produced for us was incredible. And she's now off, doing amazing work. I can't wait to see what she does. And, we get that opportunity there. So stuff like that we get to provide, I'm just so proud of, that we get to offer that to future students. And then people even who just want to gain experience, we can even hire freelancers to help us film because we have, that ability to do that. If we need help filming like an event or, hey, this is going on in the community, can you help us get video? That's helping them and helping us, so we have this awesome community partnership there.
I often tell young people who are getting into the media, it's yes, you have to forge your own path, but it's so important to have a mentor. It's important to have somebody who has paved a way, who has shown a direction. I imagine you had that in your career as well. Is there a certain teacher, a certain person you had a job shadow with or an internship that kind of led the way for you?
I do. I think back to, my last station I was at down in South Florida. I was there probably my longest time. It's weird to say that in the broadcast world. You're constantly moving around, but I was there almost 5 years. And, our 2 main anchors there were just, I think they were in the industry. I don't want to age them too much, but they were there for 40 years, I think. One's retired, one's about to retire. And I just remember looking to them as just this is the standard, of just true storytelling, true anchoring. So I just remember Michael Williams and Kelly Dunn. I would go to them a lot, of okay, well, how was that? Or how did you think that story went when it came to that? And I think that really helped mold me sort of near, the end of my career. I really found my footing kind of there. Everyone, I think, has an ego in this industry, and you get humbled a lot along the way.
Oh, yeah.
In South Florida, I think I really found that sort of groove of understanding oh, that's good. And those 2 really helped me along the way. And it was very nice having them in my life. Yeah.
And then you pull that experience that you got from them, your own experience, and now you're helping guide potentially the next generation of journalists.
I would hope so.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a lot of fun to teach the younger generation, even if it's just teaching them how to, film a story correctly and understanding, the new era of cameras that are coming. That's a huge transition in the world. So stuff like that's really fun.
Take us inside the staff meeting, the newsroom. How do you decide which stories you want to cover? How does that kind of work?
Yeah, I think something we're really lucky is we have a lot of freedom, creative freedom, that if we find something that looks, I think fun is probably the right word, because we have a lot of fun in this job, we can pursue it. Like right now, I have a story I'd love to work on with some eagles, that are nesting. And it's like, okay, yeah, set it up, go for it. So I think it's very open in this creative world that we get to work in. Obviously we have like the must runs, the stuff of like, okay, this is something we have to get out to the public. We try to find ways of how do we make this, creative? Is it some video way? Do we bring a guest into the show to tell that story? Stuff like that. So we do that, probably once or twice a week, looking at different ways to deliver, the news to everybody. But there's 4 of us that really contribute every week. All of us have the same skills, but in different ways, which provides a lot of different sort of variety to the show. That I'm more of like the news probably style. Christina shoots beautiful video that if you need that's great. Blaine does great job filming, shooting. Yasmin, our lead producer, does everything as well. So we all have like little pieces to the puzzle that just blend just great together.
Do you have a story that you can think of off top of mind that just kind of reaffirmed your passion? That was like, okay, this is impactful. This kind of fills my creative juices back up.
That's like asking me to pick a favorite child.
Right.
When you think of a story, sometimes it's what I can recall in the moment. I think in the last 6 months here, I think of some of the stories I've done, and I went and did a story at Skate City.
Okay.
And I grew up at that place.
Yeah.
Birthday parties, other friends, field trips there. And I loved that story. I had so much fun filming it, maybe because it was so nostalgic, but it was just fun to film that story because it was just this little community spot. I loved the way it came out. I was able to fly a drone inside Skate City, stuff like that you just have fun filming. That one was really this feels good, when you get it done and you're just like, oh, I'm proud of this one.
What is the most challenging part of producing local content, and how do you overcome some of those challenges?
I think challenging is, viewers. You try to get people, how do you meet people where they are in this world of, everyone's attention span is a little bit smaller than probably what it was, say, 10, 20 years ago. So the challenge is you got to get people to watch. So I think that's where we try to meet people where they are. Is that, on cable? Is it on the website? Is it on, an app, social? So I think that's probably our biggest challenge there. And I think we're trying to just meet people where they are.
And by the way, that's the same challenge that every media outlet is having, and every content creation outlet is having, is capturing, not only capturing eyeballs, but making an impact and breaking through the millions of messages we're getting every single day.
Yes. Yeah. Is it, just trying to get them as they're scrolling on their phone, trying to get them as they're, flipping through channels, or trying to get them to return to your channel. So I think that's, the everyday problem that everyone's facing, but we recognize it and then are trying to, meet people and get them to come back to us and watch our content because they want to.
A campaign that we started a couple of years ago is, we call it Our Story, Our Way. And the idea behind it was the notion that, there are outside sources that may want to tell the story of our community, but nobody does it better than the people who live and work there. And the true way to create understanding is by allowing those people to tell those stories. And I think nobody does it better in our city than Aurora TV of telling those stories. When you're going into the ideation room, when you're pitching stories to one another, you can't help but talk about the diversity of Aurora. What is your approach when it comes to that? Not only culturally, but just making sure that all the different voices of the community and perspectives are kind of represented.
I think, what's so fun about Aurora is it's so diverse. I don't want to say it's easy then to try to find different ways to tell stories, but it almost makes it easier of like, okay, the food scene is such an easy way to showcase that diversity, and because people love food. So it's easy to go and highlight some of that food. But then you look at like, okay, the Anschutz Medical Campus is a great place where so much diversity is highlighted there. You look at all the different people who work there and provide different sort of medical care, even just through some of like the nonprofits that work there and provide just different services to the different, elbows of our community. I think of some of the ones that get highlighted in like our volunteer awards. So you see some of that we can pull out and highlight there, just those little things. We work a lot with APS and Cherry Creek schools. They constantly help us and provide content to us that just help highlight things in that diverse way. So we like to nod to that. Oftentimes we'll try to pay attention to what's going on nationally as far as like, is it Black History Month? In May, Asian Islander Pacific Heritage Month is coming up. We try to pay attention to that. What unique story can we pull there? And what I love about the food scene is there's so many local businesses that it's fun to go highlight them. One, give them the business for that. And two, I love food,
right?
So does Blaine. Blaine eats anything and everything on our team. So it's easy to send him out, or we welcome into the studio and say, hey, can you bring some food into us? And, showcase their food in that way. So I feel like stuff like that is an easy way to showcase different parts, different cultures. And obviously we have Global Fest, which is a huge production for the city. And we can always tap into that of like, okay, what performances are coming, what's being showcased there. And that's an easy way to just handpick, what do we need to highlight in that way.
And Global Fest has been moved up a little bit this year. It's going to be in June. How do you prepare for that? I imagine you have ideation meetings happening right now.
We do. I think right now we're going into how do we want to preview it this year. I think it's, before we brought dancers into studio to highlight. We brought food into the studio to highlight. So I'm sure we'll start looking at all those. How do we want to do it this year? Do we want to do the same? Do we want to go to them? Do we want to bring them in? So I think we have new leadership under Aurora TV right now too. So that'll be different factors into all those discussions. But I know Global Fest is such a fun way to highlight so many different cultures and just different, I think, one of my favorite things we did was when we did the Studio A show and had, I think, 3 or 4 different performers and then 3 or 4 different food things. But then seeing them at Global Fest then the week later, stuff like that's always really fun that you get that nod to the community.
And these are organizations that often don't have a marketing budget or the ability to create this high-level content. So that's got to feel great that you're able to provide this resource. Speaking to the diversity of the city, it's almost an embarrassment of riches. It's the opposite of problem of fishing for good stories. It's how do we make sure we include as many voices, as many stories as possible. It is impossible to super serve everybody all the time.
It is. It's I think you could go into take the Stanley we could probably highlight every single business here in the Stanley and has a story, but like to do that would take months. So, sometimes that it's just the timing and the capability to be able to do everything. But I think that's what makes it, good in a way is we're never short on stories in that way.
You've talked a little bit about the changing media landscape, how technology kind of plays into that as well, all the different channels and networks that you have to use to push content out there. Where do you see it going? What do you think the evolution of Aurora TV is over the years?
I would like to think that we find that perfect, niche of this is what's going to get people to keep coming back to us. And I think that's where we'll find our groove of there, not saying it's not happening now, but I think we'll find that of like, okay, this is that groove, 10 years from now, we're still getting people to come to us, give us those story ideas, give us those people of like, this is why you're still watching Channel 8. This is why you're still coming and watching stories on Aurora TV because you care about your community.
You've talked a little bit about the content that's coming with Global Fest. For a resident maybe listening and saying, oh, I didn't know that this channel exists. Talk about some of the initiatives, some of the programming that you're really excited and you'd want them to know about.
Yeah, I love Lindita and Lindita's Kitchen. I think it's such a fun little local show we have that airs and gives little fun, easy at-home kitchen recipes. Something I'm very excited about is a show coming on called Reppin' Fitness.
Okay.
And it's a puppet fitness instructor.
Really?
So unique. And we'll advertise it in the show and it'll be on. And it's just something very unique and different out that I don't think you see on a lot of shows.
Is this for kids? Is this just a fun way of presenting?
Fun way of presenting. Okay. You think it's like Muppets Kids, but when you watch it, it makes sense.
But anybody who knows the Muppets knows it was also for us adults.
It was.
Right.
And it talks about all different things. Fitness, it's very different way to present sort of fitness industry topics than talk show host, but then also like social media side of that, some of our other content. Obviously, anybody can watch city council and get involved in that way. I think people who really want to know what's going on in their city should pay attention to city council, even if it's just watching after the fact. We always have that's going on and stuff like that. And we always have our content on our app and website that is going on there. So I think easy ways to get involved that way. It's just easy to pay attention to your community in that way.
We've addressed the changing media landscape a little bit. If you could give any piece of advice to an aspiring journalist or storyteller, what would it be?
I think my best advice to them is just, this sounds so cliche again, but just keep trying, get that experience. You have to find your style. You can't copy someone too much, but I think if you find your style and your way of doing things, that is the best advice I can give you in this world of everybody trying to have their own way of doing things. Just find yours and you'll stand out.
And it takes a minute to find your voice. Everybody starts off doing a facsimile of what they admire. And then over time, you realize, oh, this is my perspective. This is my approach. And it almost flourishes and evolves naturally, which is a great feeling when you finally feel like, okay, I'm telling this story the way I
feels so great. I always say, don't be afraid to mess up. You're going to make those mistakes. That's what the beginning is for. And, that's why you start in a smaller market, or that's why you get through the internships and that stuff. Mistakes will happen. It's not the end of the world. You just move on and, go on to the next one.
You've opened the door. I have to ask you, an on-camera moment, possibly during a live remote, did anything ever happen that you harken back on that still makes you cringe a little bit?
One time I was filming my own live shot and the camera just toppled over. It was a wind gust. And, because we would do our own live shots often, and it was a wind gust I wasn't expecting, and the camera just about 2 seconds before going live, it just toppled over, and you learn from that and you never do it again. And you're just like, yep, that was one of the 2 cameras I ever damaged. And it's like,
don't become a meme today. Don't become a meme today.
It was bad.
As an expert on the goings on in Aurora, is there a hidden gem out there that you wish more people knew about? And I know I'm putting you on the spot, and I'm not asking you to play favorites, but is there a favorite a hole in the wall you would love for people to know out?
I recently did a story. It's monsoon cuisine of India.
Yes.
And I don't really like Indian food.
Right.
So this was very, very big for me to go and because I'm a very picky eater, so it's hard for me to find new food. So this was like going there and eating that food. It's out in Southlands. 10 out of 10. It was so good. Loved that place. And if people don't know about it, they should go try. And then I recently tried Traveling Mercies.
Yeah.
Oh, delicious. So good. I loved it. Yeah.
I co-sign both of those recommendations. In a similar note, but maybe a little different, if you could tell one story about Aurora that hasn't been told yet, what would it be?
I would love to find someone who has lived here for a very, very long time. And I know there's people out there who have lived here, but I want someone who's lived in the same house, has seen the evolution around them for 60, 70 years, find them and get their take on just like the growth of Aurora, maybe even like 80 years. Like, I just would love to see that take for someone and get just their response to the growth over the last several decades, especially around like, Lowry, Fitzsimmons, like all, just that growth, and get, their opinion on everything. I think something like that, you get those, gems of people that is willing to talk and he's, that like charismatic character. Stuff like that to me is just those fun sort of like, what do you think about this? Something like that to me would be a great, just little fun nod to history of Aurora. Yeah.
We see the passion of what you and your team do on the air, but it's great to see it in person. Miranda, thank you for the time today.
Thank you for having me.
That was Miranda Christian, senior producer at Aurora TV. Locally, you can watch Aurora TV on Comcast Channel 880 and Channel 8. You can also stream live, watch archive videos, and learn more at auroratv.org. Thank you for listening to the Gateway to the Rockies podcast. Visit Aurora is the official destination marketing organization for the city of Aurora, Colorado, and acts as the primary liaison between meeting planners and hotel partners. As Aurora's Convention and Visitors Bureau, Visit Aurora's mission is grounded in showcasing Aurora as a premier destination for meetings, business, and leisure travel. Visit Aurora represents more than 75 plus hotel properties with 13,500 plus guest rooms and more than 1 million square feet of meeting space, including Colorado's largest resort, Gaylord Rockies Resort and Convention Center. As Colorado's third largest city, Aurora is located minutes away from Denver International Airport and showcases mountain views, memorable meeting spaces, and 250 plus international eateries that offer a unique experience for each and every visitor. As the Gateway to the Rockies, Visit Aurora's role in the local community goes beyond marketing the city as a destination. The Visit Aurora team is here to assist you with your Colorado visit, from facilitating your meeting, event, or convention to helping you discover local flavor and attractions. Go beyond the boardroom in Aurora, Colorado. For more, visit us at visitaurora.com.